can you confirm that everything is still on the table? And do we maybe need a little bit more stimulus after Germany, for example, cut its 2021 growth expectations from 4.4% down to just 3% flat?
Good morning. That's indeed an important question, and we are certainly ready to use all of our instruments, ready to use and adjust all of our instruments as appropriate on the basis of economic outlook, both growth and inflation outlook. We monitor, for instance, developments in the exchange rate very closely. And you have certainly, as you said, noted that some of my colleagues have already referred to potential rate cuts as well. Let me add one reason behind the strength of the euro, which may lie in the inflation outlook. The inflation outlook is too low for my taste now, and even more importantly, too low compared to our aim. So perhaps the most effective way to influence the medium to long-term inflation expectations, i.e. to bring them in line with our final goal, could emerge as a result of our ongoing strategy review. We could formulate our inflation target to be clearly and genuinely symmetric with a reaction function that would bring inflation to 2% on average.
Okay, so inflation is too low. Good morning to you, Olli Rehn. Thank you for joining us. Inflation is too low. Are rate cuts increasingly likely?
I would not enter into a speculation on one or another instrument in our monetary policy toolbox. I just say that we are indeed ready to use and adjust all of our instruments as appropriate. And you have seen that some of my colleagues have also explicitly referred to potential rate cuts as well.
What can you do, though, to get inflation going, to get growth going? You know, the latter looks like it'll just come naturally with the end of the pandemic, but inflation has been a problem since long before this pandemic. Mario Draghi tried to goose it for 8 years, and without so much success, do you need to play a different game here?
You are right that for the moment, due to the COVID-19 pandemic still ongoing, health defines the economy to a large extent. So when I'm going around the country, in my country, in webinars, I tell people, let's continue to have a sisu, stamina, persistence. Let's wear masks, keep distance, wash our hands. That's the best medicine for the economy and for employment as well in these conditions.
So is that the way to bring about inflation? I mean, inflation has been a problem since before the pandemic. So even if everyone wears 2 masks, I can't understand how the ECB's current toolbox would work.
You're right that we have succeeded in monetary policy in avoiding a deflationary danger. And we have supported the economy during the pandemic with a very forceful monetary policy stimulus, supported by fiscal policies of EU member states. But inflation, especially underlying inflation or core inflation, is too low. It's been around 1% core inflation for over half a decade. Therefore, as I said, in my view, one important way, not a free lunch maybe, but close to that, would be that we would, in conclusion of our strategy review, define a genuinely, clearly symmetric inflation target at 2%, and such a reaction function which provides us with equally forceful reactions, equally effective actions to deviations to both directions from that target. I admit this would be rather close to the Fed conclusion of its strategy review as defined by Chairman Jay Powell, as he described it as a flexible form of average inflation targeting.
So you expect, Olli Rehn, that the ECB will adopt something the same as the Fed in that sense, that inflation targeting?
That remains to be seen. Of course, it's as always a collegial decision, and in due course we will collegially discuss in the Governing Council. But I think it is both important for the public debate and fair to everybody that I express my own personal view and preference in this regard, which is what I said. I would prefer a clearly symmetric target, an equivalent reaction function. The US economy and the European economy are not that different. We are both influenced by the lower natural rate of interest and the flattening Phillips curve. So therefore, in my view, we have strong grounds to consider such a change in our monetary policy regime or strategy.